We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Stros. You can find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can they find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
And joining us, special guest, Shaquille O'Neal fan extraordinaire, Michael O'Connor. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I don't. I'm trying to stay positive today with the Framber Valdez news. I mean, if you guys want to keep me feeling upbeat, that'd be nice because things don't feel great on the third, fourth day of games, whatever it is.
Well, we have to kind of avoid what John Heyman says because he's bringing us down recently. It's just like he's always negative Sally or whatever the phrase is right now. But we're going to be talking Astros, what Michael thinks about the 2021 Astros. The Astros have a chance for the 2021 World Series again, and we'll talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. You can get Locked On Astros on podcast and app Himalaya, as well as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And when you get in your car, tell your smart device play podcast, Locked On Astros. So first of all, how many of y'all crapped your pants when Lance McCullers only pitched one inning today and left? I mean, I know the logical Astros fans were probably like, well, it was a long inning. The Astros did score, 6 runs in the first inning, but everybody's probably, after Framber Valdez left, everybody was probably like, wait, what's going on?
I mean, you definitely you're going to go through the rest of the spring freaking out a little bit. Workloads they're going to watch. Obviously, that's the most interesting thing that I'm intrigued by about this season is how do the pitchers respond to pitching a 60-game season last year, where they took them a while to get used to being back in it, to now pitching a 162-game season. Like the Astros losing Framber, if it is for the season, like they're going to be tested a little bit.
Yeah, they are. I think, the other day when Eric sent it to me, I was like, what? Like I was literally, I think I was in between classes or a class had just started because I teach 7th grade Texas history. And so for me, I was like, what the heck? And then you had everybody speculating. Then it was like you heard 3 to 6 weeks, and then you saw that could be out for a year. And I saw that it's basically multiple fractures. And it was when he was putting his hand in his glove to get the ball. Or something. And so I've never heard of a broken finger or a fractured finger taking you out for an entire season. Michael, you're there. Are you still there in Florida?
No, I'm back in Houston now. I was there all last week. So
okay.
Got back before the game started, but everything was good down there. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. No, that's okay. I just wanted to ask, have you heard anything? I don't know. Sometimes have you guys heard anything more than what's out there right now?
I texted a couple of people earlier today, and everybody said they just don't know. They're waiting on a second opinion from it. And if they're doing that, I think that's all we need to know. Like they haven't refuted a single report that's been out there. It's serious. And I'm in the mindset now where I'm preparing myself for, we're going to hear, the second opinion said he's done for the year. And this thing, I can't imagine what he did to his hand. I can't imagine what he did to his finger in that scenario where he's putting the hand in the glove like that, and that happens. Like you said, it must be like he needs pins and screws and stuff, and you have to worry about his future.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of reminds you what George Springer did a couple years ago, where he hurt his hand. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he stayed in the game, and then he slid into third base, and then he may have hurt it even worse. And so that's possibly what happened, because he stayed in the game. He pitched, I believe, to 3 more hitters or something, and then maybe that happened. So who knows what really happened, and we may not even know. So, yeah, that second opinion is the thing that's kind of scary here. But the good that going back to Lance McCullers, the fact that he knew that he was not going to pitch a lot. There was a lot of pitchers that needed to pitch today. We saw a lot of people kind of make their debut. Tyler Ivey went out there and pitched 2 innings, and he actually got to face Molina, and that's something that's a future Hall of Famer. So that's something that he probably will remember from his spring training debut. But Lance McCullers, I think Dusty Baker said, you know what, I want you to pitch in some B games. And McCullers said, no, I want to pitch in all the A games. I want to face the real competition. So that's, you have to like the bulldog in him, and he wants to go out there, and he doesn't want to just go through the motions. He wants to face the top talent going out there. So, who do you think, Michael, will be the opening day starter? Do you go with McCullers, or do you go with Greinke at this point?
I think he'll end up giving Zach Greinke the nod just because he's the veteran possible. I think Zach Greinke's probably going to get in the Hall of Fame one day. And he started opening days quite a bit. And, he did pitch well at times for the Astros last year. And Dusty Baker started to get some trust in his. I think Dusty will give Greinke the nod in what will probably be his last season here. I thought, going in, honestly, like Framber Valdez probably deserves some consideration for it, obviously, based on the way he pitched last year. But, it's nothing against McCullers. I think that Greinke's being the veteran would be the guy that would get it if it wasn't Framber.
Yeah, I think unless there's any hiccups in spring training, he is going through his regular routine. He showed up at the final day that you can show up. He's doing things the Greinke way, and I think too, Dusty Baker earned a lot of trust, and I think they have a mutual respect, and it is kind of the baseball thing, like the unwritten rules. It's kind of like what you do. But one of the things I like about the game today is you had Martez came in and got 2 strikeouts. Now he still has like 60 games to serve on his
think it's like
suspension.
100. I think he's only served like only 60 games because
he served 60, so he's got like 40 more to serve, right?
No, he has 100 to serve because he has 162 games.
That's okay. I misread something someone had tweeted out. Yeah, so I saw him out there. I didn't even know he was at camp, but he gave you 2 strikeouts. Ivy had 3 strikeouts. Rayleigh had 2 strikeouts. Garza Jr. had 2 strikeouts, and Paredes they had 11 strikeouts today. Their pitchers looked really good. Guys, I think the key to this season is not the offense. The key is, how is this bullpen, and how are these starters going to hold up going a whole 162 game season with limited assets, it looks like at this point.
They are not alone in the getting through this season with, a bunch of guys that are unknown to us. And I think there's a lot of fear from that, but I could tell you this from being down there. Brent Strom came over and talked to us, I think after the second day we were down there briefly for a few minutes. And that guy, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He says that there are at least 5 guys that will not make this team out of spring that are either bullpen or starters that will deserve to be on. He loves their pitching depth. He's that confident. And as long as he's confident, I'm going to feel good about it.
And just remember 2020. Just remember how many people made their major league debuts that had no business being on that baseball field. So them having that exposure kind of gave them an idea what they need to work towards. So that's something to kind of give them ideas. So speaking of which, if you're going to make some bets, you want to have idea of what you should bet on. So why don't you go to betonline.ag? So Brett, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Football may be over, but NBA, college basketball, the NHL are in full swing, and soon baseball is right around the corner. BetOnline even covers award shows, TV shows, and reality TV. Heck, who knows? Maybe we can find some Michael Connors prop bets out there. Real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline has you covered for all the news, scores, and odds. It's the best way to place your bets, and it's free to sign up. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, your sportsbook experts. Use the promo code Locked On for that 50% welcome bonus.
And it's fantasy baseball season. And guys, we got a fantasy podcast for you. Go to listen to Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast with Scott Cullen. He is a veteran fantasy analyst, and he uses data and nearly 2 decades of fantasy baseball experience to offer strategies and waiver wire pickups that lead to league wins. Season-long fantasy, dynasty leagues, DFS, whatever you do, Locked On Fantasy Baseball covers it all. Subscribe to Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcast. All right. So, Michael, yesterday, it was kind of just maybe you missed 3 to 6 weeks for Framber Valdez. Then we saw John Heyman's tweet about the missing the entire season. I know Dusty Baker came out and said that we don't have any more news And so the team's kind of keeping it kind of quiet. I know Dusty Baker said before today's game that it's kind of a big deal. He was just kind of coming into his own. You saw how he pitched last year. You saw the progress that he made and how he pitched down the stretch. It's a tremendous blow to the team. So I know that John Heyman mentioned Jake Odorizzi out there, and he's the best free agent available. I don't see the Astros going out there and adding another free agent.
I don't think that it's likely if Framber Valdez is going to miss just a portion of the season, and he's going to come back. I know that they're 13, 14 million bucks from that luxury tax threshold that they're worried about. They want to keep that flexibility to do stuff at the deadline. That really matters to every team in this pandemic world. But I think the Odorizzi thing is something to monitor now, because they do have nothing but young guys basically. And Framber's one of those guys that you were counting on. We watched him. He was the workhorse. That guy was 7 innings almost every time he went out there last year. You have to have those guys to get through a 162 game season. So James Click has the relationship of being with him in Tampa in the past. I think it's something you have to at least monitor. But I do know that Odorizzi is sitting there because he wants a multi-year deal. I doubt that the Astros want to go jump in a multi-year deal. If he wants to come and do a 1-year deal, then I would think that the chances are, at least decent that he could end up here. The longer he sits, I think the chances grow that he is a real possibility.
Yeah, I don't think he would sit. You remember 2 seasons ago when Keuchel and all those free agents were just sitting. You remember Keuchel was like, he's working out on the beach or he's working out with a personal trainer. I don't think it's going to be a situation like that. But I think with this depressed market, it does favor the Astros. There are some other names out there, and I kind of joked about some other names, but I'm wondering if there's someone that's serviceable, that's a veteran, that maybe is 2 or 3 million. But going off of what you said and what Brent Strom said, if they are impressed with their depth and the pitching coaches can convince James Click that they don't need to go out there and do that, wait till the trade deadline, then I see him standing pat more than going and getting somebody, especially that higher priced.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody should be mad if they don't do anything instantly because of that. They're really high on Luis Garcia. I think he's going to – and look, the guy that is the real – it's time to do your thing or,
Right.
We're moving on. It's Forrest Whitley. This is Forrest Whitley's chance. This is his season to go and do it. It's time.
Yeah, and I think everybody focuses on the money, but you have to understand it. Also, if they go over that luxury tax threshold, they also lose some draft picks as well. So that's something that they have to take in consideration too. So yeah, there's Rick Porcello still out there, Cole Hamels, Anibal Sanchez. Yeah, maybe you can say, hey, come ride on the Houston Express and for $2 million, and let's try to win a World Series. Anibal Sanchez just pitched with the Washington Nationals and won a World Series against the Astros a few years ago. But still, I think the Astros are capable of finding somebody from within. And Baker said, we're going to have to try to find somebody in our system, and we can come through who can come in through like Framber did for us last year, because we're in the same situation last year with Justin Verlander. We kind of were hesitant about what Justin Verlander could do last year because he had the same injury. So yeah, we're kind of got our backs against the wall. And so I don't know what else the Astros can do, but just hope that Luis Garcia or maybe Brian Abreu, who's in better shape this year, or Forrest Whitley can do it. But unfortunately, Brian Abreu, Luis Garcia are in what do they call it? It's health protocol right now, so they're not even able to pitch. So what's going on here?
And I'll give you guys real quick. I'll give you guys one name to watch. Out of sight. Actually, I have a mole down there that sends me stuff every day about who he's liking and who he's not. And this is somebody that you probably would guess who it is. He's a former big league pitcher who throws knuckleballs. Blair Henley. That's the name that I got yesterday. It was like, watch out for him. I love this guy. So that's from Steve Sparks.
I figured that.
Really?
Yeah.
Blair Henley. Interesting. Okay. But, here's the thing. And I know this is a spring training game. And I know, Carlos Martinez has really not been himself since he came up and, kind of torched the league when he first came up. He's kind of fallen apart since then. But today, guys, we won 14-0. We had 12 hits. And I know it's spring training, but Miles Straw is doing a good job. He's gotten a hit every game. He led off with the double today. Altuve got hit by a pitch, but he ended up scoring. And it was really good to see all these guys, Martin Maldonado getting a hit. And it's almost like that may be sometimes what we have to do. We may have to outslug clubs. And sometimes you may have to get guys doing 2 or 3 solid innings and maybe see if you can find one of those to be a long reliever, kind of like Brad Peacock played in that year in that season a few years ago when he was, really dominant in that role.
Yeah, and if things don't work out and they're not getting young guys to step up, and if Lance McCullers has to be a 180 inning pitcher, Jose Urquidy's got to be one of those, Zach Greinke's got to be one of those, and then you got a chance, because if you don't have 3 of those guys doing that, then you are going to be in some trouble. Like you mentioned, the offense, that's the thing that keeps getting slept on for whatever reason. I don't understand. Like, I know that a lot of guys had down years in a 60-game season last year, but I don't think that there's any reason to have anything but optimism for how they're going to hit, because they're going to add whenever he gets back out there on the field. They're going to add the best hitter available out there, Yordan Alvarez, and this lineup's going to be scary, and it's in my opinion still the best in the American League.
The best part of today's game was that they lifted Carlos Martinez, and then in the first inning, let somebody else come in, finish the inning, and then brought him back in to start the second inning. That's spring training baseball in 2021. That's just awesome. So speaking of 2021, let's talk about the Locked On Today podcast. Today on the Locked On Today podcast, Big Ben is back in yellow and black. Is that a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Get more of the sports news you need in less time with the Locked On Today podcast. Subscribe to Locked On Today wherever you get your podcast. All right, so Michael, I know that we kind of talked a little bit about the rotation, but I want you, you kind of alluded to the offense, but do you think that this team, I guess let's not look at Framber Valdez, but do you think this team as a whole has enough to get back to the World Series in 2021?
I think it's missing some pieces that it needs to get there, but I think it has enough in the American League to get there. Absolutely. To me, it comes down to them and the Yankees still. I think the Blue Jays are kind of on the outside still. I think that the Astros pitching is better than the Blue Jays is at this point. I think that the Astros will probably find their way to making some moves when they need to do that. To me, it gets back to the same thing as what they have the best and deep and most talented lineup, and that's losing George Springer in the American League. I think the difference when I go Astros Yankees is the Yankees have kept that lineup the same. We know how you get the Yankees lineup out all the time. You just throw fastballs up or sliders down. Like they got guys that strike out left and right. The Astros don't have that, and I think that's what makes them so dangerous. And yeah, they're still. This team was basically the exact same team was playing for the chance to go to the World Series in Game 7 last year. They can do that again this year.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a quote from Tim Anderson from the White Sox. He's a guy that I love his athletic ability, but he's a guy kind of you love to hate that as the opposing player. He basically said, we're the effing best team in the American League. And I'm like, no, you're not.
I keep forgetting them too. And that's wrong. They are talented.
They're good. They're good. But I don't think they're the best. But, hey, in your opponent, you want you want to be the best. You want to beat the best, right? And I think that kind of swagger, you don't just have one player who has that on this team. I think you have Correa, who stepped up in a big way, when he basically told Framber, stay focused when he got in that little tiff on the mound, and then just the leadership role he's taken. They talk about how Altuve's come back. Brantley's talked about his mental focus this year, and Brantley being back is a big boost. And Kyle Tucker, I really think Kyle Tucker, Michael's going to have a great year because now he's on this team. He's a permanent part of this team. He doesn't have to fight for a spot, and his bat, I think, is going to be on fire. And I know everybody's talking about Bregman being possible MVP. But what do you think about Tucker? Do you think he's going to have a special year?
1,000% with you. Being down there, it stood out. Like when we were down there, it's tough to get close. You have to stay far away from everything. So we were on the main field just off to the side. And the first time I saw him, he has put on so much muscle. I think that's the biggest, he looks like a grown man finally. He doesn't look like a little kid up there anymore, scrawny. He looks huge. And it's batting practice. It's not that big of a deal, but there's a difference between some guys' batting practices and others, like where you're like, and I'm tell you this, watching Kyle Tucker last week, he was rocketing balls like not just over the fence, but like 50, 60 feet past the fence. And other guys are just out there hitting them off the fence because the wind's blowing and everything. And like, I'm just like, and you can see it. The maturity is clearly like taking that next step. I think he's going to have a huge year, and possibly we're going to look at the end of the season. We're going to be having him in the debate of who's the best hitter on the Astros.
Speaking of which, do you think that we'll see Kyle Tucker playing any time in center field? I mean, if there's any chance, I think that we'll see it maybe start off the game in center field and maybe Miles Straw coming in kind of late in the game, but I still don't see that happening. I'm just trying to think of a way to get Steven Souza in the lineup sometimes, but I still think that's very unlikely. But I'm just trying to find a way to get in case Miles Straw is struggles, but I still think that Straw has a good shot of doing it. But do you see Kyle Tucker getting time in center field?
I do. I think that I know that they really like Souza, and I think I would be surprised if he didn't make the team out of camp. They have that spot available. Like they need a guy. They've played him a little bit at first base as well, or they've worked with him at first base. They're going to be comfortable with him playing right field. He's got pop in the bat. He's not going to be a big average hitter, so you're not going to play him every day. So if you can kind of platoon it to where Straw is, not in the lineup some days and Kyle Tucker is in center field, yeah, I think that you'll see him get some time out there for sure.
All right. So Brian Abreu, does he look? I mean, I know you can't get that close to him, but
I got decently close to him. I was probably within 15 feet at one point.
Okay. Does he look a little bit better shape this year, or?
Yeah, he does look like he probably lost the pounds that he came back to summer camp with, because I was at spring training. I go every year. I was at spring training last year, and he was not anywhere near fat, and it was amazing. He came back from the summer camp, and it was like, that dude must have gained 25 pounds. But he's still a little bit heavier, but he's definitely lost a good, chunk of it.
So what do you think about Jose Siri? We keep hearing about him, and I know he's got a lot of potential. He's a big body, got a big bat. Does he have a place on this roster, or is he a Sugarland Skeeters guy until they need him called up?
I think, yeah, that's your likely scenario. I don't think that there's really a ton of I don't think there's a ton of spots that are available on this team. The only one is if Souza came out and just flopped, to be honest with you. I think the bullpen, that's where your real competition is with some of the young guys. But other than that, like, I think everything's pretty set in stone.
Right.
Do you think Shack by the Seashore, that's a running joke we have here, not to say his name, but do you think that he has a pretty good chance of making a team, or Andre Scrub?
I thought so. I know Brent Strom loves Andre Scrub.
Yeah.
I thought Shack had a chance, but man, you come out and give up 3 straight home runs, and that's not looking good. I don't know. I think they'd like to have him. I know that James Click values those underneath guys, and they'd like to have 2 of them out there. Those are back from his days in Tampa as well. Like, he had a lot of those guys. So if he doesn't go out and give up a bunch of more home runs, then I would assume he probably makes the team.
All right. So I guess the big thing from camp, I don't know how much you got from this, but the press conferences with Lance McCullers, and I don't know if you saw the Carlos Correa thing, but do you get a good feeling about them offering them an extension before spring training is over?
I would be surprised if they do it with McCullers. I think that the Astros are always going to have a certain mindset on pitching, like how far they're going to be willing to go. I think that they're always going to rather do shorter deals than longer deals. And McCullers at a stage of his career to where, and look, Scott Boras is his agent. I know that McCullers wants to be here. There's no doubt. There's no denying that. He'll tell you. I just don't think that the Astros are going to do anything before the season. They need to see him go out and be. He still has a lot to prove. I am optimistic about the Correa situation. I've heard good things. I think that they have a set number, though. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be overly pissed, because as much as I love Carlos Correa, he's been hurt every year but one. And playing that position with that wear and tear on your body and being a bigger guy, like, it's probably not going to ever be, oh, suddenly he plays 4 straight years of 150 plus games a season. Like the writing's on the wall. He's going to be a hurt player, unfortunately. And, I would stick to my guns. And if it's too much, if he wants too much, you got to pivot and spend that money somewhere else.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely. And I think with Jeremy Pena and them, I think that's also could be a factor in signing him. So
You have that leverage that you can say, well, we don't need to offer you this, but we want to keep you here. But yeah, I think you go with the veteran, but at the same time, you can't bring back Verlander, you can't bring back Greinke, you can't bring back McCullers, and you can't bring back who's the other person? Correa. You can't bring them all back because you'll be putting yourself in the same situation you are in now with the luxury tax threshold. So you've got to pick, and I think that's what the Astros are trying to look at right now and trying to decide who they want to do. And so we'll have to see. Out of the four, who's the most important to you? Be outside of Correa. Obviously, Correa is the most important to you, Michael. But what order are the other three on bringing them back?
I don't know. I think something that's going to be interesting with the Verlander thing is that I think that something will be in place that they could offer him extend him the qualifying offer, and he would take it because it's going to be over $19 million. It's a lot to pay for a guy who's 39 and coming back from Tommy John at that point. But I think that he and Jim Crane, from everything I know, is that they have a very close relationship. So I think Jim Crane will probably be like, okay, we would like you to come back and give it a shot and let's see how it goes. And then we'll, if you want to keep pitching after that year, if it looks like we want to keep you, then we'll do that. I don't think that Zach Greinke's pitching in Houston after this season. I just think that he wants to be closer to home out west if he can be that. I know he's just not. It's not that he's hated his time in Houston. It's just not his. It wasn't his choice. This wasn't a team he could block and trade. It's a different fit. He's just a different cat. He's at that stage of his career, and I think that I would like to see them bring McCullers back. I think that you need to keep a few of these guys, and I think they're going to keep at least one, obviously. But I think there's a set limit on him as well. I think Verlander is actually the most likely of those guys, those three, to come back.
Okay, so how many years do you think Craig gets, and how much? If you had to give a number.
To me, it's about getting the average annual value right. If you can get him at no more than 25 a year, good to go. But I think it's at least 6 years to get it to that 25 number. You got to push it to 8. I'd be okay with it. $25 million a year. It sounds nutty, but that's not a contract that one day is going to be unmovable. And if you sign him for 8 years, he'll be 35, 36 when that contract's over.
Yeah.
He'll be old, but he can move to third base. I think at some point he's going to hit. So I wouldn't have any issue with doing that.
Yeah, now when Trevor Bauer is making $40 million, all the owners out there are like, no, you're setting this price level for our future free agents. So, but anyway, Michael, thank you for coming on. Brett, you got anything else to say?
No, I just think it's great hearing from Michael and just kind of getting the inside scoop a little bit that, the fact that you got to go down to spring training, here we are, we're teaching in the classroom, which that's what we love to do, but man, we would love to be there. So again, we appreciate you sharing your experiences, and you're welcome on the show anytime. And definitely we'll be hanging out. Are you still doing the 10th inning?
Oh yeah. I'll be geared up, ready to go for a bunch of late nights and then early mornings. And hopefully this season, last year was the first year I haven't traveled with them in the postseason, which kind of sucked. I'm hoping to be able to do that again this year, COVID allowing it. It was weird getting to spring training. There was just, you couldn't do much. There's no personal interaction. We were limited to a very small area, but I'm never going to complain about, especially right after the winter storm, being able to go to Florida and sit in 80-degree weather for a week. It was not bad.
This is mostly a joke. Just make sure you let your bosses over at 790 know that ever since Talking Stros was on 790 during the 2017 season, the Astros have not won a World Series since. So
We need more rings on our fingers, man.
Yeah, so bring us back on. So anyway, but Michael, thank you for coming on, and like Brett said, you're welcome whenever you want to. And hopefully, this Framber Valdez is not maybe a 3 to 6 week thing, not a whole season thing. But yeah, thanks for coming on. And guys, you can listen to Locked On Astros podcast daily, and go Astros. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.